Today, we're going to talk about how it's actually better for your relationships to take a step back from them. We're going to talk about how actually detaching from people helps you to more fully attach to them in love and in care. I'm Pastor Matt Anderson, and this is Worship Anywhere. Great again to be with you all. Before we do anything else, let's check in for charity. We have our charity this month is a partnership with Build On, and we are building school for kids in need. So go ahead and check in on Facebook at Surprise Church Bismarck. Every 10 check-ins equals one brick in the wall or in the foundation of a building in a place where kids need school. So thanks for your help checking in and doing good. Take a selfie too. Whatever you're wearing, assuming you're wearing something, take a selfie wherever you are, on the couch, in the car, pull over if you're in the car. We'd love to see what you're doing, who you're with, all that good stuff. We're starting a series right now called Is Love Dead? Check it out. So we're thinking about the kind of love described in the Bible and asking ourselves, is it still valid today? Are the values, are the relationships, are the categories that are used in Scripture even helpful to us in this different world, in this complex world, in this world where things are being questioned that have never been questioned before with regard to race, gender, marriage, all those things. And if everything's up for grabs, what's still relevant today? Before I go any further, make sure that you take our spiritual growth assessment. This is a great tool. It's going to help you know where you're at with 5 different areas of spiritual growth and then to make a plan based on recommendations in each of those areas. So it's a free tool for you to use. Just go to that site and then let us know how we can cheer you on. Ideally, you're in a group or a ministry team or something that would allow you to work through this together. So if you're watching from Rosemount, if you're watching from Savage, if you're watching from Washburn, if you're watching from Bismarck, Mandan, Lincoln, wherever you are, this is designed to take, and you can build the plan that you'll see at the end of the inventory, that you can build this plan, and then you can talk about it with people in your group, team, family, whatever. So let us know if you need any help finding a place to get connected, finding people to get connected to in person or online, because it's very, very important as you'll take this assessment to develop those relationships with people who can cheer you on. All right, now back to the series, Is Love Dead? This is the second of a 2-part series. Last week was about the generosity and the sacrifice that goes along with love. Not getting, but giving. But we said that there's a risk there, that we can sometimes give and flex and offer so much that we have nothing left. We're bitter, we're angry when we feel used and abused. And sometimes people take advantage of those who are flexible or adaptable. So today we want to kind of give the caveat on last week's message. It's a standalone message, but it's going to really give you a helpful angle on this topic that didn't get discussed last week. So I would encourage you to watch them both. And we're going to start with Mark chapter 8. Listen to Jesus' words here, and let me see if you can identify the risk. He says, Mark 8, verse 34, "Then he called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, 'Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me.'" Now, Jesus said this before he went to his cross, but it was written down after he went to his cross. So everybody who wrote it and who read it understood exactly what he meant when he talked about taking up his cross. He literally carried a cross and died for the world. And he says, somehow I want you to deny yourself and take up your cross and follow me in the way that I lived. Even if it isn't dying for the sins of the world on a cross, what does it look like to carry your cross? But sometimes we use the word, oh, this is my cross to bear. And it might be. This might be the challenge that God has given me to carry. But sometimes the cross we bear is not a cross that God has given to us at all. Jesus goes on here. Look at verse 35. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. That doesn't sound very healthy, does it? I mean, when you talk about losing your life and being willing to lose your life, you usually start thinking about doing dangerous things or unhealthy things or self-destructive things. But here we have it right here. Deny yourself, lose your life, and we're left to sort out what does that actually mean and what does it not mean? Well, we're not left on our own. I think there's a lot in Scripture that's aimed to help us understand what that looks like and what it doesn't. And it's important that we don't just pull those verses and just justify poor behavior or unhealthy patterns. So this message is really meant to carve out, what does this really mean and what does it not mean? Because you think about denying myself and losing my life, some people would say, I have been taken advantage of before, okay? I denied myself and look where it got me. What if I become a doormat again? What if I get used or abused? I have people in my life that would gladly I deny myself. I have people in my life that would gladly have me carrying their cross, and then they would take advantage of me. I think of a girl named Katie. It's not her real name, but Katie had a son named Steve who was addicted to drugs, and he was an adult child. And Katie described her home as a prison. She never knew when Steve was going to come home, but she knew that when he did come, he was not going to knock. And when he did come in, he was going to ransack the house for money so that he could go and buy drugs. If she tried to stop him, it could get violent. So she would usually help him get drugs or get money to buy drugs. Sometimes she even sent him the money she thought he would need so that he wouldn't come and be violent in her house. So here's a woman who's living in terror that her adult son would show up violently trying to steal from her and destroy her property. So she starts helping him to try to manage it and control it. I think about a guy named John whose boss had multiple businesses, so he was very busy. And John was hired to do one job, but because the boss saw talent in him, he just basically gave him more and more of what the boss originally was doing to manage this particular, they had like it was a manufacturing plant, and they had a big garage door, and the garage door would open, the boss would show up and check, everything's going good, I'm leaving, and Josh would be there, or John would be there just carrying the load. And it got to the point where Josh never was not working. His wife became extremely frustrated. His kids just assumed that dad really doesn't live here anymore, almost, and his life became his job. And ultimately, he became unhealthy. He started having heart problems. He started having to go to the doctor a lot to get checked on with symptoms he was having. And he lost his family, lost his kids, ended up sleeping around. And it just kind of put the final nail in the coffin because he needed an escape from the crazy work schedule. And there was conflict at home. And one thing led to another. Ultimately, he even lost his job. He lost everything. So we can bend over backwards to try to help people, please people, do what we can. The problem is that we can sacrifice the wrong things for the wrong reasons. And it ends up making things far, far worse. Here's a little diagram of these two. Katie had the wrong sacrifice. She sacrificed her safety and her dignity by allowing her son to commit crime in her home, never calling the police because she didn't want to get her son in trouble, wanted to protect him and control the situation, but she couldn't control it. But the right sacrifice would have been to sacrifice the comfort she got from not getting her son in trouble. She was uncomfortable in many ways. She sacrificed her desire to avoid conflict with her son, sacrificed her desire to try to control something she couldn't control, and simply let her son get in trouble for what he was doing, which was the normal course of action when anybody does those things. John was willing to sacrifice the wrong things in terms of his health and his family. Ultimately, he even sacrificed his job, but he did it for his job. And the right sacrifice would have been his ambition to be thought of as I can do anything kind of employee. his need to please his boss, his need to never have to say no and have the conflict or the discomfort around that. But he chose to sacrifice the wrong thing instead of the right thing. And there's a couple words that when you got to get into therapy or therapist circles, you'll hear the words enabling or codependence. When you sacrifice the wrong thing for the wrong reasons, you tend to be enabling someone else to do the wrong things too. And you tend to enter into what's called codependent relationships, where you're dependent upon someone else to make decisions that you really should be making for yourself. Let's get into those two words for a minute. This is really important so that you and I kind of have some background. You'll hear these a lot if you listen closely in life. You'll hear these words thrown around, but it's helpful to really know what they mean. Enabling is a destructive form of helping someone. So Katie thought she was helping her son by not turning him into the police, by not changing her locks, by not letting him face consequences. So she was trying to rescue him or control outcomes by preventing certain things from happening in a way that actually created more problems. He did more drugs. He committed more crimes. He was more violent towards her because she didn't want him to get in trouble. And so she enabled him. Oftentimes when we enable, the problems we try to prevent get worse. And we create new problems in our relationships because of our desire to try to control the uncontrollable. Codependency is like this. It's a bit of a different angle. A codependency is being addicted to a one-sided relationship. Oftentimes, everyone is dependent in a relationship to a certain degree because we all need relationships. We all need affection. We all need physical touch. We all need compassion. But when it gets to be unhealthy, is that people who tend to have esteem challenges, self-esteem trouble, lower self-esteem, lower sense of self-worth. When that happens, my lower self-esteem draws me to try to manage and control the moods and behaviors of others. And I try to manufacture the love and the respect that I just feel like I don't deserve. And so instead of kind of standing up for the things I think or want or need, instead of asking for things that are important, instead of saying, hey, that doesn't seem right, I'm going to try to overfunction and work around that person's mood. If it's a good day, great. If it's a bad day, well, let's see if we can try to help them feel better. And I'm in a relationship where I am dependent upon their moods and their feelings to be okay. And their decisions and their activity governs how I feel and what I do. So I'm not my own separate person. I'm codependent. This is oftentimes very challenging when you're married to someone or in a relationship with someone who's abusive or addicted to chemicals, because their decisions affect you so much and you want the relationship to be healthy and you don't want them to get in trouble and you don't want to leave. And so then it ends up being, well, I guess I'll try to just make the best of it, and sometimes it ends up making it worse. And of course, there are lesser levels of this. It doesn't have to be at the top level of an abuser or an addict. We can do this with coworkers in subtle ways that just create more problems. Here's a triangle that this kind of creates, though. This doesn't work, and here's one of the reasons why. We try to be a rescuer, and ultimately that leads us to be frustrated because we can never fully fix the situation or the person. And that then makes us the persecutor. We start to get angry. We start to accuse them of and talk about them to others of, look what they're doing. We have to stop and fix this person. Here's all the things I've done and all the things I'm trying to do, and I need help. So we start to kind of persecute the person that's not responding in the way we are trying to get them to act by being the rescuer. And then when that doesn't work, we start to play the victim card. We start to feel more and more victimized, more and more treated unjustly, and start to become defiant. Oftentimes when people spend time in this triangle long enough, they start dreaming of an escape. They might do self-destructive things, or might commit acts against the other person because they feel justified as the victim, not always knowing that they've perpetuated a process where their reliance upon that person's moods and feelings govern their behavior. Their compliance to their desires and declarations have led them to operate differently than they would have. And then that leads them to become defiant. I'm a victim. I'm angry. I need to escape somehow. So that desire to rescue and help someone is not what Jesus is talking about. It's not what he wants for us. He's not how he created us to operate. It tends to create problems. So here's Luke chapter 10. Here's a passage of scripture I think just summarizes this beautifully. It's a story many of us have heard before, talked about before, but if this is your first time, I want you to notice something very specific here. This is a story where Jesus gets invited to, I guess, a dinner party, or it doesn't say it's a dinner party. He just gets invited over to the home of Mary and Martha, two sisters. He's coming through their town, their village, they ask him over. And he comes, and ultimately we learn later that he developed a strong relationship with his family. But here's a circumstance that illustrates the principles we're talking about. Watch what happens here. This is in the city of Bethany. It says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat down at the Lord's feet, listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and said, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Now, Jesus calls her out because she's actually doing something that's very unhealthy here. Let's see what he says. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset by many things, but few things are needed. Indeed, only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Now, you could say that Jesus is saying, well, Mary is doing the right thing, you're doing the wrong thing. You should be listening to Jesus instead of working in the kitchen. I don't know that that's the point here, though. The point is not that if you are a stay-at-home mom, or if you're a stay-at-home dad, or if you're a person who has a lot of housework, you shouldn't do the housework, you should just sit and read your Bible. I don't think that's the point. I highlighted the words, Mary has chosen for a reason. He's simply telling Mary that Mary is choosing what Mary wants to do, and Martha is choosing what Martha wants to do. Look at this list here. Mary is playing the victim. You want to know how? Here's how. Mary refuses to take responsibility for her decision of working in the kitchen. Maybe this wasn't even a dinner party. We don't know. Maybe she just decided to make brownies for Jesus and decided that when he's in her house, she wasn't even going to be in the same room as him because she was going to make something for him in the kitchen that would make him impressed with her or something. But she's blaming that decision on her sister. Do you see that? She feels forced by Mary to work in the kitchen. She actually refuses to allow Mary to make her own decisions, and because she doesn't want Mary to make her own decisions, she wants to make Mary's decisions. She tries to pull other people, in this case Jesus, in to try to control her sister. Do you know anybody like that? Have you ever been like that? You ever been in a situation where you just become bitter that you're the one peeling all the potatoes, or you're the one doing the floors or mowing the lawn, and why aren't my kids helping me? Why isn't my spouse helping me? Why does the grass grow so fast? And have you ever just stopped and looked at yourself and thought, I'm choosing to mow the lawn right now. I'm choosing to do this. I don't have to. No one has a gun to my head. I can let my grass grow a foot tall if I want to. I can hire someone to mow it. I can just kill it. Put poison down and have a yellow lawn all summer. I can do that. But I'm choosing to. No one's making me. And if someone else is supposed to do it, they get to make a choice too. Or if someone else is supposed to do something else, they get to make their choices. And I'm not going to pull other people in, gossip and backstab and try to get them to come in the end. You really should be making this choice. Do you see? Martha is actually unhealthy here. She's functioning in a sort of codependent way where she can't let Martha or Mary, her sister, make her own decisions, and she pulls Jesus in. And so the solution for this is not just to take a chill, although it wouldn't hurt. The solution for this is actually called detachment. The solution is releasing people and problems in love, not being mean about it, but releasing those situations, trying to say, I can't control it, I'm going to let go of it. And that means to give people the freedom they need to be responsible and grow. If I take responsibility for your decisions and I try to get you to change them, then maybe what you do, you blame me for, instead of accept your responsibility for. And it's also to identify what I can and can't change. I have very little ability to change another person, if any at all. And so the things that I can't change, I'm just going to let go, because it doesn't do any good to pretend that I can. It's a myth that I can control outcomes and situations. And then finally, taking ownership over my own decisions. If I have this job, I'm not going to be the grumpy person at the checkout counter that acts like someone's making me be here. If I have this family, I'm not going to act like I'm mad that this family chose to come and live with me and rule my life on my bad days. If I have this house and it's got some problems in it, I am going to own that I bought it, I had it inspected, or I'm renting this apartment and it is the apartment I chose. No one chose it for me. I chose it. And so I don't have to pull people in and attach things to them. There's a story in closing of, it's a fable I heard a long time ago. A man is standing on a bridge. And as he's standing there, a second man walks out on the bridge and says, will you hold this rope, please? He says, sure. So the first man grabs the rope and holds onto it. He's tied it really tight. Like you might want to tie it around your wrist or something. It's going to get heavy. So he really secures it to his arm and he holds it real tight. And then the second guy, hanging onto the rope, ties it around his waist and jumps over the bridge. And the guy, of course, the first man knows what's coming. It's going to be a heavy pull. So he gets down beneath the railing and he braces himself for the impact. And there's a huge pull and the man hits the bottom of the rope and he's hovering above this deep gorge with a river flowing over rapids on the bottom. And the first man is like, what are you doing? You got to climb back up. And the man hanging on the rope says, don't let go. You'll kill me. Don't let go. You'll kill me. I'll die. And so the man doesn't let go. He doesn't want that on his conscience. He doesn't want to kill him. So he just stands there holding on. Minutes turn to hours. His arms begin to quake and cramp up. He tries to find ways to tie this thing around his waist. Cars coming by. It's a busy road. It feels dangerous. You've got to climb back up, he screams. I'm not able to hold this much longer. I have to go. If you let go, you'll kill me, the man hanging on the rope said. Don't let go. You'll kill me. Hours pass further. It starts to grow dark outside. And all night long, the man on the top is begging and begging the second man on the rope to climb up, to hurry up, to not make him help him. And the car's still going by dangerously close at night, can barely see him. I mean, it's the worst safety hazard ever. Sun comes up in the morning and the man on top is now blistered and bloodied. He can't feel his limbs, is tingling everywhere. He's starting to realize that soon he's going to not be able to maintain his own posture and he's going to topple over the railing himself and die together with this man. So once more he tries and says, you need to climb up this rope. But again, the man says, don't let go. Don't let go, you'll kill me. Finally, the man on the top with the rope lets go. And on his way down, the man says, why are you letting me die? And he shouts back down, I'm not. I'm respecting your choice. That story, the first time I heard it, really caught me because I recognize in myself a tendency to try to protect against negative outcomes, negative interactions. I sometimes assume that if I just say or do the right things, this circumstance will turn out well, this relationship will be better, this interaction will go perfectly, this person will feel better about me. And sometimes we have to say, wait a minute, all I can control is what I say and do, and I have to let go of the rope. If someone demands that I hold the rope and that they have no responsibility, that they have no need to respect or be kind or to put any effort into a relationship. The only thing that I can do that's loving is to actually let the rope go and let them fall into their own assumptions and see the consequences of that. Looking back at Jesus' words in Mark 8, for whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. Clearly, he's writing this and saying this to people who want to save their lives. Because he says, if you want to save it, you're going to lose it. And if you lose it for me, for the right reasons, you're going to save it. So I took a shot in light of today's lesson to paraphrase this. And I say, one way of reading this is to say we lose ourselves by trying to control people and situations. We lose something sacred about ourselves in a bad way. But when we receive Jesus' sacrifice, we grasp our own value because he died because he loves us. We make our own decisions. No one else is in charge of our decisions. And we lose our need to control reality. We get saved. So when Jesus says, I want you to deny yourself, I want you to lose yourself, he's not saying, sacrifice the thing that makes who you are. He's not saying you don't matter unless people think you matter. The gospel says you are worthy of love. The gospel says you matter, no matter what people think or no matter how things turn out. And that is a declaration that can start our journey towards freedom from being attached to people in such a way that we sacrifice the wrong things for the wrong reasons. Jesus is the ultimate sacrifice. He forfeited his very life so that you and I could learn how to be, as Romans 12 says, a living sacrifice. Not a dying one, a living sacrifice that properly understands God's will, that makes the right sacrifices for the right reasons, and then also, in love, knows when to let go of the rope. I hope that helps you. I hope you have some good conversations with this topic in your community group this week. Thanks for listening to Worship Anywhere. I'm Matt. God bless you.